Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. This is episode 303, bringing you the latest and greatest gaming news of the past week. I am your host, Sean Hayes, and kind of another, outside of like reporting everything that was revealed in Summer Games Fest. Not not a lot going on this week. I do have some announcements from that, but yeah, it's tough not having E3 anymore for this time of year. Excuse me. So yeah, hope everyone's been doing well. Yeah. it's sorry. It's been a bit of a wild week. So and just super busy with it being like the last week of school for us. So yeah, we got some Dungeons and Dragons news. So that's very exciting. So and yeah, I got back into playing Vampire Survivors. Since I can just, if I have a half hour here or there, just do like a single run. That game still continues to punch way above its price. Like it is the best, I don't know, $3 you'll spend. I don't know, $8 if you buy all of the expansions, maybe. But and then I put the Black Priory, I think is the title, on my wish list. That looks so good. The marketing for that is like absolutely spot on, and I love it. So yeah, but it kind of getting kind of interested in like sort of retro classic RPG type games, because I didn't really play a lot of them growing up. I mean, Super Mario RPG was my first RPG. And I didn't even own it. I was renting it from the video store. So that was like my first foray into RPGs. So and you figure that was kind of late into the Super NES era. So now, why don't we get into this week's news? I'll stop rambling to pad time. So here we go. This week's news in 3, 2, 1. All right, so first up, from Summer Games Fest, Polygon reports that Civ 7, next iteration of the venerated, I don't really want to call it city building, but like, nation building strategy game. It's in development, set to release 2025. Not like the announcement didn't really go into what features they'll include or whatever. I did see a comment. I can't remember if it was on Facebook or on YouTube or something, that was talking about how the odd iterations of Civ tend to be really good. It's sort of like Star Trek, like the Star Trek films, where like every other one is really good. So kind of see like what they take from 6 and refine and iterate from there. I know right now Civ 6 is like heavily discounted on Steam. But like a lot of the scenario packs, there's like a really weird thing going on where they're like 90% off, but still like $15, because the original price is listed as like 125, and I have no idea what's going on with that. But so yeah, so to see what Civ 7 takes from Civ 6, refines, iterates on it. Because Civ 5 was great. And we've played, my wife and I have played Civ 6. There's differences, and I think there were less features in the base game than there were in like Civ 5. So I think there was a bit of an adjustment to try to get to. But so yeah, sometime in 2025, Civ 7. Next up, Wizards of the Coast announced preview videos covering content in the upcoming Player's Handbook revision. So on June 18th at 7 a.m. Pacific time, it will include like an hour-long video of everything you need to know, end quote, about the Player's Handbook. It will cover weapon mastery and character origins, which is sort of species, I think is the official term that they're going with now. Background, feats, character options on the 19th. So June 19th at 9 a.m. Pacific time, there will be a preview of the new fighter. June 20th at 9 a.m. Pacific time will be the paladin. June 21st at 9 a.m. Pacific time will be the barbarian. I have seen comments from Latia Jakis, who is the community manager, that they will go into like all of the classes. So one thing to note is there are only going to be 4 subclasses for each class in the book. So not all subclasses will get an update and put into the new Player's Handbook. So this means that things like Tasha's and Xanathar's will still somewhat be relevant. So yeah, I'm excited. Really excited to see. Like, Fighter got a bunch of changes, like with weapon mastery and stuff. Like, weapon mastery becomes a core feature. So I'm curious to see what the final product looks like. Barbarian got some interesting stuff. I think really like everybody's kind of really waiting to see what happens with Ranger, because like Ranger's gone through a number of iterations. And one of the hopes is that, you know, Wizards finally figures out like an actual class identity and like a central mechanic to it, like every other class does. Like, so, you know, like paladins have smite, barbarians have rage, fighters now have weapon mastery, you know, rogues have sneak attack. It'd be nice to see rangers kind of focus in on something. I would have liked to have seen just, so I would call it terrain specialist, but not in the way that you think. What I would like to see is rangers be masters at using general terrain, the general term of terrain for like special abilities or for special bonuses and stuff. So this isn't like oh, it's not like Natural Explorer where it's like, oh, so I'm gonna pick a specific type of terrain and then just get expertise or advantage on survival and nature checks while in it. No, I mean like using cover, or, you know, maybe having like terrain dice. I forget the RPG, like Iron Heroes or something, where Rangers had like terrain tokens, and you could spend terrain tokens to produce a number of effects. But you know, getting like better forms of cover, or like utilizing snare, like having like maybe that the ranger creates terrain effects, so that like, oh, maybe there is not a snare set up, but like you see something that could be in the moment utilized as like a trap. Um, I think would be interesting. Um, it does require how some GMs run to change things because that means you need to be a little more loose with like your battle setup. But yeah, or something like like if you're in an interior space, like, oh, you notice that like some of the bricks are loose, so if that you hit them just right, it could, like, if you put enough force in that wall, you could cause it to come crashing down, kind of a thing, or a section of the wall to come crashing down, or uh things like that. Utilizing a lot of extra terrain stuff that like people emphasize that like martial classes should be doing more of. Anyway, again, rambling. So these will be up on youtube.com/D&D Wizards. So again, those will be available. I don't know how long the class preview ones are. They just made a big talk about the first one being an hour long. So my guess is probably the ones will be like 20 minutes or so. So yeah. Next up, GamesIndustry.biz reports that the Lego adaptation of Sony's flagship series Horizon will not only be coming to PlayStation and PC, but also Nintendo Switch. So this is a new thing for Sony. Not likely that that Horizon, Zero Dawn or Forbidden West would be coming to Switch, but this I don't know if this is going to be like a spin-off or if it's going to be sort of a retelling in Lego's own style of Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, or both. But I think this is great. I think this is a smart move for Sony, particularly with Lego, because like Lego games sell pretty well because Lego's a recognizable brand. It's got kind of the appeal that like growing up that like Disney games had, where parents would see like, oh, it's a Disney game, for whether you had a Genesis or Super Nintendo, whatever, because then you had to deal with like both Disney branding, and in the case of Nintendo, like Nintendo standards. It was a pretty safe bet. But yeah, and I think Horizon is just a natural fit for Lego, since it's all a lot of robotic monsters anyway. Like in the original games, like there's just robotic pieces flying off everywhere when you attack the monsters. So I think shifting that to little Lego bricks, I think is a nice little charming thing. And that Lego's already done partnerships with Sony for Horizon sets anyway, which they're really nice sets. I don't have any, but I wish I did. So that's very exciting. It's been a while since I played any Lego games, but the Lego Star Wars ones are always great. So I may be excited to see what goes on with this and to pick it up. But yeah, no word if it's coming to Xbox, I don't think, or if the original games are coming to Xbox. So I don't think Sony's totally open yet. I don't think they've adapted to Xbox's strategy yet, where Phil Spencer said we want to put Xbox games on everything. So but we'll see. Maybe this is a turning point for Sony, and that they're going to put their stuff on more platforms. So yeah. All right. Next up, Lorcana is getting a new set. So they just did the announcement. there has been some backlash from the community as to like Set 4 kind of just came out. Came out like a couple weeks ago. Um, but I think people who are new to trading card games are a little fatigued right now of like the announcement cycle. But um, so Set 5 will release August 9th to local game stores. So keeping with the every 3 months release date cycle. Set will be called Shimmering Nights and seems to focus around like big celebration after preventing Ursula from taking over the Inklands and the Illuminary and all that stuff. But notably, we'll feature a lot of characters from Wreck-It Ralph. So finally, some Wreck-It Ralph representation in the game, aside from one mediocre action card. But doesn't seem to be any, like, there's not any new, like, big mechanics. So nothing like locations. As far as they've done in the reveals, there doesn't seem to be, because like Set 4 had like sing together and sort of the alternate shift effects. Set 2 just had a big focus on Floodborne. Set 3 obviously had locations. But it just seems to be Racer is a new tag that is on character cards. So obviously with a lot of the Sugar Rush characters, they all have Racer. One thing is I'm a little sad that Ralph doesn't have both hero and villain tags, because I thought that would be a little interesting and funny. But Badanon does get a card. So like interestingly enough, Badanon has a card that helps villains. So Ralph can't benefit from it. I don't know if there's going to be some sort of different cards for Ralph that maybe one of them is a villain. But yeah, was a little interesting that Ralph like kind of the crux of that movie is him going to Badanon and like becoming accepting of that he's a bad guy and everything. But then in Lorcana, like he can't actually benefit at all from that card. I'm just looking up to see. I'm curious as to what characters show up in the art for Badanon, because I just realized that is an interesting point. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so the art for that's a little disappointing. So they just have Zombie and I don't know if she's intended to be a vampire or something, but I don't know. I don't think she's a character that actually appeared in the film. So no licensed characters on the Badanon artwork, unfortunately. You won't see M. Bison or Zangief or Bowser or Clyde or how do they brand it? Like Satine? Yeah, none of them. They could have done Dracula. They could have put Dracula on there as a nod to Castlevania, but like Dracula's public domain, so But so yeah, so you just get Zombie. But it's also but to keep it, friendly, like family friendly and brand safe, it's also because in the movie, Zombie's got a axe hanging off of his head. And they don't appear to have that in the card art. So yeah. But it is, yeah, it's a card that specifically benefits villains. So Ralph is also in the art. So there's going to have to be like a Ralph, a villain card. So yeah, I don't know. One of the other notable things, so Merlin is getting a new card, and it's Lorcana's first tutor card. So for those who don't know, actually, is it? Now that I think about it, I'm pretty sure. So typically Lorcana has been like reveal the top, has been like, for those who are familiar with Magic the Gathering, they're called scry effects, where it's like you reveal, you look at the top X number of cards of your deck, and you pick one of those. Sometimes you pick one of those and put it into your hand, or you rearrange them or whatever, and you put like the rest on the bottom. This is like you search your deck for a card and you put it into your hand. I expect this will be an expensive card. And I expect this will be like a 4 of in like any sort of combo deck. Just because and it's, you put it into your hand. And there's a body attached to it. The only thing, I don't know how much it costs to do that. But I mean, like, so the big thing in Magic is a lot of the tutors cost 1 or 2. So like they're very popular because they're low cost. But I think like even the 3 cost ones. Okay. So it's 5. So that is expensive. I think it's still going to be done. Yeah, because it's again, for those who understand Magic, it's if you slapped Demonic Tutor onto, a fairly decent body. So he's a 3/7 that quests for 2. That's not bad. Especially in Sapphire. So we may see Sapphire Amethyst, which is a color combination that hasn't been seen very much. And, because you've got a bunch of Merlins in there that are like part of a standard Amethyst package anyway. Yeah. So I'm excited to see. That will be, yeah, I'm trying to kind of figure out and plan my budget for next set already. So I would expect that one to be an expensive one. That'll be an expensive card. So yeah, August 9th. So you've got some time. You don't have to worry about it just yet. Set 4 still has some breathing time. So yeah. Next up, another announcement from Summer Games Fest. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Rita's Rewind. Nobody saw this coming. If you say in 2024 we're gonna get a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game, and it's like like original series Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This is not in anybody's public consciousness. That said, it looks pretty good. It's like a Turtles in Time style game, where you go through and you just fight classic Power Rangers enemies. It's got a Turtles in Time art style, and they have like Megazord levels. It's fantastic. The trailer's up on YouTube right now. Go search it. I like that style of game. I was a big fan of the TMNT side scrolling games. The Turtles 2, Turtles in Time. Big fan of River City Girls, Scott Pilgrim. Just that genre is fun. Not so much if it's like I was never really a big fan of like Double Dragon or Streets of Rage. Battletoads is also another. Like, how could I forget Battletoads? Um, so I think like a lot of those style games also open them up to like having a really strong brand attached to them. Um, and so yeah, like this is a natural fit. So I'm excited to see what comes from this. Uh, I'm not like I was a big fan of Power Rangers as a kid. Not something that I kept up with. Like some friends of mine have, but yeah. So more Turtles in Time style games, please. And then finally, our last bit of news, Xbox posted on their blog from the developer an upcoming, quote, cozy survival game, end quote, called Winterboro, where you play as little field mice, or forest mice, if you will. And it's the developer was saying that they were really inspired by things like Don't Starve Together, um, Animal Crossing, and stuff. And they wanted to make a survival game, but not necessarily a super punishing one. And they wanted to do little furry woodland creatures. So it's not. So it's also got an element of like grounded, where it's you are tiny. uh, it's a lot of the stuff. For me, it was reminiscent of. I've never read Redwall, so I can't make that comparison. But it felt very like Winnie the Pooh or Frog and Toad. The art style is very Frog and Toad. So, yeah, this looks great, and like it's you're making like stuff out of like little grass strands. And so yeah, I'm very excited for this. I don't know if it's going to be like an Xbox exclusive or if it will come to PC. Like I maybe in Steam or Epic or something. I think this would be a smash hit on Switch. So I think if Phil Spencer doesn't release it on Switch or like doesn't push for them to release it on Switch, they're leaving money on the table. So, yeah, I'm definitely gonna follow more on this, and if there's any news, bring it up, because I think for the audience that listens and watches this podcast, this would be something they'd be interested in, and might even be like I think I'd be more interested in streaming like sort of like survival or cozy type games. Um, just trying to figure out how to stream more. Um, so yeah. So, that is going to wrap things up for this episode. But for those who are watching live, stick around. I'll do a post show. Um, but for audio listeners, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me. As always, you can find more of our stuff on 8-bitadventures.com. It's still kind of undergoing construction right now. I have like hundreds of comics that I'm trying to re-archive and reorganize. So please bear with that. If you would like to help support all of this content, you can become a patron over at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Patrons can get benefits for as little as $1 a month, $1 a month. And it is charged monthly. It is not charged per project or per upload. So, Thank you to all of the current patrons. Thank you for your continued support. Our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. You can find his work over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we're going to close out this episode. So, as always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake. Okay. All right. So post show. I figured if because it always seems to be that people jump in at like the last, 2 minutes or so. So I figured, I'd just tack on a little bit of discussion after, just so that people could tune in and actually get something. So, and this won't be in add in progress, of course. So yeah. Oh jeez. So we got about 40 seconds left. So, but yeah, I'm super stoked for Winterboro. Let's see. Let me see if I can find. Oh, it'll be on Steam. There we go. It'll be on Steam. Now, the only thing I'll be curious to see is if when I go to edit the highlight on Twitch, if I will have like a half a dozen private messages that all say like the same thing of like, "Oh, cool stream, bro. Keep it up the work and everything." Like some sort of it's been like some kind of weird positive affirmation bot that happens. But so yeah, if you're just tuning in now, we are in post show discussion. But yeah, Winterboro will be on Steam. So yeah, I'm excited for this. Let's see if I can. Let's see. We're gonna try and do something a little funny here. Hopefully I don't. Let's see. Not media source. Window capture. Here we go. Window capture. I'm gonna call it monitor 3. Oh wait, no, not window capture. Video capture device. Display capture. Monitor 3. Display. Boop. There we go. Yeah, this is the real stuff here. We're editing the overlay live. So this is the announcement trailer. Actually, we're gonna do this. Unfortunately, we're just gonna do that. It doesn't have to be perfect. Whatever. Okay. Lock that in.
There is nothing left for me in the city. So, I have traveled back to where I grew up. Here, I found my childhood home in ruins. Why hasn't my aunt taken good care of it?
So you can definitely see
The bridge to her house is
visually
broken, so I can't even ask her.
the influences from like Don't Starve Together.
I will make the tree stump a cozy home again, no matter what it takes. And no matter how hard it gets. I will fight. And find meaning and beauty out here. Some will say that in the dead of winter, a small city mouse doesn't stand a chance. Maybe so. But I must keep believing that every winter leads to spring. Auntie, finally! No!
Didn't see that part. That's rough. Oh no. So there we go. All right, so we can remove this now. Yes. All right, where's my wish list? Add to my wish list. Planned release date Q1 2025. Nice. So, actually, here we go. There we go. Add to my wish list. Nope. Oh, all the sales are over. Oh, that's sad. Except for Blue Oak Ridge. Outpath. Yeah. Oh, Scald Against the Black Priory. That's the title that I was talking about. That one's got really good marketing. But yeah. So yeah, and I get Lorcana. Yeah, I really think Merlin is gonna be like an absolute banger. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I like if it turns out that a full on tutor effect attached to a body ends up not being a $50 card, I'm okay with that. Man, I wish there were less $50 cards. And of course, it's in all the colors I need too. It's like Robin Hood, Ursula, Beast, and Diablo. Like, yeah, 3 copies of Robin Hood, 2 copies of Beast is $100. 3 copies of Robin Hood is $100. 3 copies of Ursula is $100, and 3 copies of Diablo is $150. And it's like, I can't do that. That's way too expensive. Like I'm still waiting for the cards to come in, but I'm gonna try. It's a Sapphire Emerald, like Pillow Fort type deck. That the whole deck itself costs $25. Like it could have been done as a precon. So I'm curious to see how it plays. So, and I guess if you haven't played Lorcana, but you like Magic the Gathering or Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon or whatever, and your local game store has it, check it out. It's really good. Um, it's one of those where, like, despite not having out of turn interaction like Magic does or Yu-Gi-Oh, um, it's a really solidly built game. And then it's Disney. It's Disney branding. So there you go. Like you won't have to go into learning like a whole bunch of lore and characters and stuff that like are meaningless kind of outside of the game. Which that's always nice about branded properties. But it's also, because it's a really solidly designed game, I think it has legs to stand on that so like it's got two things going really well for it to make sure that it is that it survives. And I said, as somebody, I had 7th C TCG decks, and I'm so sad that it didn't make it. But I mean, one, that game was a mess, and two, 7th C is like a niche TTRPG. So the fact that they made a TCG off of it, I'm like, yeah, nah. Sadly, I don't know where any of those cards are, and that makes me incredibly sad. Holy moly. Even if they're worth nothing, like, just from a game design perspective, like, there was some stuff, there was just a lot going on for a TCG. It's like each character, like each like character card had like you had 6 stats on top of like the character's like power, toughness type thing, and all of those stats essentially paid for different costs. So imagine if it's like every creature in Magic produced some variety of mana. Like you had was it like your 6 different kinds of mana? Because I'm going to include colorless here. And like every creature had produced at least some amount. So, yeah, that's what the 7th C card game was like. It was wild, and it was a mess, and I still loved it. like it was a one-on-one card game where you also had locations, and that you would move your pieces from location to location. Like I don't know what they were thinking. Like if it was going to be more like you sat down and did like a board game. Yeah. Yeah, it was the stats for each character card was there. I definitely remember there was adventure, there was influence, there was cannons, boarding, and there were 2 others, and I don't remember what they are off the top of my head. But I remember those 4. So like boarding was used for for boarding attacks. So like if you wanted to get into like melee with your opposing player's crew, you could do that. Boarding was a bit riskier because you could use boarding to defend from another player's boarding attack. So it was like both kind of an attack and defense stat. Cannons was a much safer bet, and that was you could use cannons to either deal damage to a crew or use to play cannon attack cards. Influence was used to just play characters. Adventure was used to play adventure cards. Sail, that was another stat that was used to move your boat. and do sale. It was a mess because like cards had up to 6 different kinds of costs attached to them. And it was it was it could not have made it as a TCG. Like it just couldn't have. What they should have done was they should have just like put it in a big box, like you see with like deck builders and stuff. Just give you all the cards at once and just sell it as a big thing. You know, maybe with like specific decks or whatever. Or doing it as a deck building game might have been an interesting thing, but deck building games hadn't really been developed yet. So yeah, rest in peace, 7C TCG. You know, especially since I have a friend from college who worked on a bunch of the second edition books. You know, and I have played exactly one 7th C game, and it was run by that friend. So it's just it's a swashbuckling TTRPG. You know, and it's in the age of sale period. So I love it. You know, and I like the background theming of that setting. So yeah. But as I said, Lorcana is pretty good. So what else? Yeah, I'm most stoked for the Ranger preview for the new player's handbook stuff. So I don't know when that's going to happen, but also fighters. Like I'm really excited because like fighters had a long history of being just like, oh, you have a new player to the game, they're going to play a fighter because they got like no interesting class features. It was just like they just got big numbers. Which, you know, you can make something that has interesting mechanics but also be easy to play. And honestly, they should make every class like that. I've been trying to adapt now that the 5e SRD is Creative Commons. I've been trying to adapt that stuff to my own system. And let me tell you, like, trying to rebuild Druid into something that's a lot more accessible, and using the design philosophies that like the D&D team is using now going forward, of providing like templates and stat blocks and stuff in your class features and descriptions instead of having you to refer to another book. Druid's a mess. They're like, Wild Shape is design wise a mess of a feature. And like this has been trying to pursue, like I've been trying to go like the Warcraft route of like there's a couple different forms that is like it's like a chassis. So it's like a guardian form. I'm going to use, it's like a guardian form, stalker form, a travel form, you know, maybe a scout form. And that like you get a base set of features from that, and then you get options to tack onto. Like you can like pick, it's like you look at the following list and you pick 3, and that like you know, will affect like what features that form gets, kind of a thing. Instead of being like, I want to turn into, you know, an elephant and then have to look up an elephant stat block. Instead it's like, okay, so I'm going to pick this feature, this feature, this feature, and then I'm going to call it an elephant. It's kind of a midway point between sort of the design philosophy that 5th edition is going forward with, and 4th edition's design philosophy in D&D, which was Wild Shape was an at will, and it was just like, you turn into a creature, your stats don't change. There you go. It ended up being like a ribbon ability, but then a lot of your powers that you got later on then augmented your wild shape type thing. But yeah, 4E was just like, we're not dealing with all your stat changing nonsense or whatever. Like, sure, you can turn into a gorilla, but you don't get gorilla strength. You can turn into, you know, an iguana, but you don't get any iguana abilities or something. I don't know what abilities an iguana would get, but yeah, and because I am rebranding as like as like a witch class, I'm having it be that instead of like picking a creature and turning into that creature, it's, it's a fantasy game. You're playing a witch. If you want to turn into an amalgamation of creatures, you can. There you go. Like, if you want to pick like two of the options would suggest like you turn into a bear, and then you also pick like you get a gore attack, so you have antlers. You're just an antlered bear. You have a bear. It's a bear with antlers. Or if you pick like a bunch of options for like a rabbit with antler, you become a jackalope. Sure. I'm like, you know what? I don't think anybody would bat an eye at this in the setting that I'm making this for. Is like, there's already enough weird creatures out there, and the fact that like, if you're already going to have, as a class feature like shapeshifting, why not be able to mix and match stuff? So, all right. Well, I think we've just about hit the hour mark, so we're gonna close out post show. Thank you all for joining me. Like I said, post show will not be included in the VOD that gets posted to YouTube or to the audio file or the highlight on Twitch. So that's just a fun little thing for afterwards. Maybe I'll split it up and do it to Patreon. I don't know. Still deciding on what to do for a Patreon exclusive content. So, but yeah, hope you all have a great weekend. Stay hydrated. Use sunscreen. Make good choices. And I will see y'all tomorrow night for some Stardew Valley, 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, because I am in an area that does daylight savings time. So 9 p.m. Hopefully, both the kiddos have to go to bed at a reasonable hour for me to do that. So it's been a little tough this past week, last week of school. So, yeah, assuming the kids go to bed on time, it'll be 9 o'clock. Stardew Valley right here, twitch.tv/8bitadventures or youtube.com/@8bitadventures. So we'll see you then. So, as always, have fun, happy gaming, and enjoy your pie cake.